News, the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Join us for a special GB News event.
The celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
From pageantry here at the Palace
to the parties in your street.
We'll bring you 4 days of
Unforgettable moments.
between the 2nd and the 5th of June.
Join us live up and down the country as we share your memories
Of Her Majesty's extraordinary reign.
Send us your stories, photographs and videos.
at jubilee@gbnews.uk.
Come and celebrate with us.
On GB News, the People's Channel.
no spin, no bias, no censorship. It's Dan Wootton tonight with me, Patrick Christie's. Now, coming up, Rishi Sunak told Tory MPs in January that there was no magic money tree. But fast forward to today, and he's announced a £15 billion cost of living package.
I can announce today we will send directly to around 8 million of the lowest income households a one-off cost of living payment of £650.
So I'm asking, was it a necessary U-turn or has the Chancellor caved under the pressure? I'll be debating that with my superstar panel at 10 p.m. And it really is a superstar panel because tonight I'm joined by Conservative commentator Dominique Samuels, former Tory London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, and author and journalist Amy Nicola. So don't miss that. And of course, the health establishment are peddling their latest fear-mongering project, and this time it's monkeypox. That's right, but have no fear, because I'll explain exactly why you should ignore all this ridiculous hysteria in the digest. You won't believe what our NHS has started doing, let me tell you that. Plus, as they edit official information to make this monkeypox sound more threatening, are the NHS guilty of this scaremongering? The social media voice of reason, Zuby, has been digging into this story, and of course, we uncancel him in Uncancelled at 10:40. And as Boris Johnson lashes out at the rudeness to hard-working staff highlighted in the Sue Gray report.
Staff who work for you were rude to security members of this building.
I think it's utterly intolerable for people to be rude to hard-working staff.
Yes, and OK, is it fair to judge someone based on how they treat service industry workers? I'll get your verdict in the clash with TV guru Kim Woodburn taking on former Apprentice star Naveed Soul. You can find out who gets taken to the cleaners at 9:25. See what they did there? As a new study as well suggests that Anglican, Catholic and Methodist churches could die out within 40 years. Goodness me. Who are we going to blame for Britain becoming an increasingly godless country? Anne Widdecombe weighs into that at 9:40, goodness me. Nicola Sturgeon has launched another big push for Scottish independence. What, did she ever stop? Anyway, there we go. But her appalling leadership during the pandemic seems to all be but forgotten what short memories they have north of the border. I'll be asking James Melville if Scots need to hold Sturgeon to account for her COVID totalitarianism in The Outsider, and that is at 9:50. Paul Rossi is an American maths teacher who was disgracefully sacked for giving his view that anti-racism teaching and critical race theory are actually having a harmful effect on children. Tonight, he'll tell me his story as we discuss how to stop the woke mob from infiltrating our schools. That's all coming your way at 10:20. Plus, as woke theatre bosses at Shakespeare's Globe warn their audiences that a play about the murder of Julius Caesar, you're going to love this, by the way, the actual murder of Julius Caesar contains, get this, knives. Yes, OK. Well, who could have seen that coming? Although, to be fair, if it had, it wouldn't have happened. Anyway, have trigger warnings become simply ridiculous? And, of course, we're going to be getting stuck into the fact as well that there's a 76-year-old woman, and our TV viewers can see a picture on radio. It looks a lot like a 76-year-old woman. She gets engaged to her 19-year-old toy boy. Yes, OK, I've been reliably informed. I'm not allowed to say anything Madonna-related about that. But anyway, is it right that love really has no bounds? Is age just a number? The two ladies on my superstar panel feel strongly about this one, I believe, and I'll hear from them in the media buzz later in the show. Of course, neither of them are old enough to have a toy boy. Anyway. You'll also get a first look at tomorrow's newspapers as they drop. And you know what? As always, and this is what I love about this show, I have all of the power, OK? So find out who I crown Greatest Britain and Union Jackass at 10:50. I'm Patrick Christie's. This is Dan Wootton Tonight. All that's coming up your way after the latest news with the wonderful, the effervescent Polly Middlehurst.
Patrick, thank you. The top stories tonight. The Chancellor says people should be reassured that benefits and pensions are likely to rise significantly higher than inflation next year. Rishi Sunak has also announced today a £15 billion support package to help tackle the cost of living crisis. Millions of households are going to receive a £400 discount off their energy bills, and the lowest income earners will be given £650 in a one-off payment. The Chancellor's also introduced a 25% temporary levy on energy companies.
Focused on delivering for people, and that's what today was about. And the timing of today is because we now have more clarity about what's going to happen to energy bills in the autumn. We heard from Ofgem earlier this week about the potential scale of the increase, and that's why we took decisive action to provide £15 billion worth of support to help the country get through the challenging months ahead.
4 Conservative MPs say they no longer support the Prime Minister since the publication of Sue Gray's Partygate report. A total of 20 Tory MPs have so far publicly called for his resignation. Separately, Acting Police Commissioner Sir Stephen Howes has defended the Metropolitan Police's investigation of the Partygate scandal.
Many of the photographs that we are seeing look bad, and Sue Gray's report has dealt with that. We deal with the law, not what looks bad. And just because there is alcohol present, can I just remind people that the COVID regulations are about breaching COVID regulations. They're not about whether there's drink there or not.
Well, in health news today, 8 more cases of monkeypox have been identified in England. It follows the first cases of the virus being recorded in Wales and Northern Ireland earlier today, with a further 2 cases being discovered in Scotland. The UK Health Security Agency says the new cases bring the total in the UK to 90, but that the risk to the overall population remained low. In the United States, the gunman who killed 19 children and 2 teachers at a primary school in Texas was able to enter the building without any confrontation. Police have released a timeline of the attack, which shows they responded within minutes. 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, armed with an assault rifle, barricaded himself in a classroom where he shot his victims. An hour later, police broke in and shot him. President Joe Biden and his wife will visit Uvalde School on Sunday. Entertainment news, and Jamie Lee Curtis and Viola Davis are among the Hollywood stars paying tribute to Goodfellas actor Ray Liotta following his death. The 67-year-old found fame in the film Something Wild, but is perhaps best known for starring in the 90s American blockbuster Goodfellas, which was directed by Martin Scorsese. The actor's publicist said he died in his sleep in the Dominican Republic, where he was working on his latest film. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+, you're with GB News. Now it's time for Patrick Christie's and Dan Wootton Tonight.
Yes, good evening, everybody. Terror, fear, incorrect information, the manipulation of the facts. That's what led to excessive lockdowns, mass unemployment, a national mental health crisis, economic ruin, the desecration of our children's education system and, of course, put millions of people on an NHS waiting list. COVID unequivocally killed people, don't get me wrong, but in my opinion, our response to it may well kill more in the long run. But we haven't learnt the lessons. At least our NHS and health officials don't appear to have anyway. The NHS has been busy editing its monkeypox information page and making it sound a lot worse, more deadly and transmissible than what it had previously stated. It removed a paragraph which stated, "It's very uncommon to get monkeypox from a person with the infection because it does not spread easily between people." It then removed another paragraph saying monkeypox is a mild illness that will get better on its own without treatment. Some patients can develop more serious symptoms, so patients with monkeypox in the UK are cared for in specialist hospitals. Oh, and of course, it wouldn't be a good old pandemic, would it, if there wasn't a little bit of self-isolation involved. Here's a paragraph. They've added, "As monkeypox can spread if there is close contact, you will need to be isolated if you are diagnosed with it." And apparently, they've also included a little note that you can get monkeypox from eating undercooked meat, which will only fuel the vegan lobby, won't it? Why are we doing this? Well, in my opinion, it could be one of several things. Over-caution, fair enough. I'd rather have that maybe than the other way around. The fact that the medical community thinks that we're now all addicted to kind of fear porn, really. We have to have some bad health news to give us a little bit of fear every single day, don't we? Or could it be because they want even more money? Could it be that they want even more resources from our government and from people like you and I, the taxpayer? Could it be? Sign up now to a global WHO pandemic pact. I will never, ever think it will be the right thing to do for the UK to join an international health pact. On our own, we are nimble, agile, we're able to duck and dive a bit, ultimately thrive a bit as well. Well, look at our vaccine rollout, for example. Regardless of whether or not you think the vaccines are actually any good, I don't want to be dictated to by a third-rate Ethiopian politician because some health authority, who is clearly, in my opinion, in China's back pocket, decided that it was the unelected leader of the world. I find it highly suspect, personally, that China has already started stockpiling monkeypox PPE, ready and waiting to sell it to the rest of the world. I find it highly suspicious that our NHS is deliberately changing its monkeypox information page to make it sound scarier than it is. I would find it entirely wrong if Britain signed up to a global health treaty that removes our autonomy. I would find it suicidal to enact any policies that financially ruin us yet again. People seem to conveniently forget that one of, if not the main reason we are in financial ruin is because of our response to the COVID crisis. It'll be less like monkeypox, more like where's my moneypox, won't it? And yet, all the lessons we were supposed to have learnt from COVID may well now be forgotten. Whatever it is that our health advisors are trying to sell me, I'm not buying it. OK, all right, well, look, to respond now, of course, I want your views, GBViews, GBnews.uk. We really do actually love to hear from you. We're one of those rare news channels that does. But to respond now is my superstar panel political commentator, Dominique Samuels, former Tory London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, and author and broadcaster Amy Nicola. Now, Amy, you're going to fundamentally disagree with everything I've just said there, aren't you?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. Oh, here we go. Off to a flyer. Oh.
I do think you need to have a little bit of sympathy. It's no surprise that people are worried. The last time we heard virus, what happened?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
But I do disagree slightly with your comment on the NHS editing. Because their job, of course, is to provide up-to-date health information. And we do know from other sources that this is a highly, highly contagious virus. So, of course, it needs to update its information accordingly. I think you're right. It's right to be overcautious because look what happened last time. And the fact is that this is the first time monkeypox has left Africa. So it's right that we are a little bit vigilant and concerned, surely.
Go on, Dominic. I can see you itching to get in.
Yeah, but, is it not odd that the prevailing consensus before with regards to monkeypox was that it was exceptionally rare for it to spread from person to person because you usually catch it from animals? So on the NHS website, it said verbatim that human-to-human transmission is unlikely because it's hard for it to spread that way, and then it removes it. And I understand that perhaps information needs to be updated in that regard. But as far as we're aware, it's not that transmissible amongst humans.
Where the problem lies is, yes, they need to update the information, but it needs to be accurate in the first place. If we learn anything from the pandemic, it's inaccurate information makes people panic. And it also needs to be proportional as well. Monkeypox, apparently we've had 90 infections, and maybe there's a possible 200 more. We are a nation of 67+ million people. It's an infinitesimally small amount of infections you have. And what the NHS must not do is react to the press. The press has an entirely different agenda to the NHS. The NHS's job is to keep us safe. The press's job is to say sensational things.
But I haven't noticed this.
How could you possibly suggest such a thing?
I just haven't noticed this hysteria that you all mentioned. I haven't really been aware of much coverage.
There's an article that I read recently as well that was saying monkeypox is a lot more transmissible than first thought, scientists fear. And then when you actually read the article, not much information had actually changed. And that's sort of the same theme that we saw during COVID.
And let's be fair, I'm not talking about hysteria. What I'm talking about is what will lead to that hysteria. Monkeypox, in the way it's being spoken about now, would make no difference to anybody except it's in the shadow of the world pandemic. So anything that you talk about health-wise that is transmissible in any way could lead to panic. That's why you have to be accurate, you have to be proportional, and you have to talk about what's actually happening.
It does look pretty horrible, though.
Yeah, all I know is, though... Exactly, that's another thing, the extreme photographs that are being used when most of the time it's actually just a rash. It's not the massive boils that you see on people's skin.
It looks like chickenpox on steroids.
Yeah, all I know is that regardless of whether or not this becomes a massive pandemic, I am not locking down over monkeypox.
Well, this is the thing.
I'd rather walk around with balls.
There's
all
no
over my
plans
face.
to lock down over monkeypox. That's not going to happen.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Are there any situational circumstances now for you, Sean, where you would tolerate another kind of health-based lockdown, really, do you think, after what we've seen?
I would need an awful amount of proof, because I think the thing that we all need to look at now is what has been the impact of that. Yes, the financial impact is easy to measure. Eventually, we'll figure out who died because of what the lockdown forced on us. But the real thing is, if you travel on the tube, for instance, in London, nobody wears masks anymore, but you'll see the odd person who wears a mask.
It's a political choice.
No, but somebody said to me she doesn't want to wear the mask, but she's so fearful about her health. And what people who are calling for these things need to understand, it can terrorise people into a position where they think they can't live their life properly, and we need to think that through.
Yeah, and Amy, for me as well, I'm very, very, very wary of trying to whip up fear. In case, in fact, that's the opposite of what I'm trying to do here now about this, because I do think the mental health impacts that we had, the impacts on children's education, for example, the financial impacts. I mean, Rishi Sunak is still lobbing cash out there left, right and centre now, in a way, for us because of all of this stuff, and I'm just not sure the British public will think that that's worth it again.
No, I think what you've said is important. However, I do think that we are going to have to face the reality of seeing more viruses like this starting to come over and spread as global warming increases and the climate crisis takes hold, because there's going to be an impact on biodiversity.
Because let's be clear, our health is not so directly linked.
Viruses.
Hold on, our health is not so directly linked to the weather. That's the first piece. But the real piece is this: we talk about health now differently than we did before the pandemic. So if someone's going to tell me we have more and more and more illnesses, they need to demonstrate it against a marker before we had the pandemic.
And also the fact that lockdowns have compromised people's immune systems, making them more susceptible to diseases that they otherwise wouldn't have been because they were locked inside their homes. That's something that nobody wants to talk about.
I think saying our health isn't linked to the weather is spoken like a man who's never seen me peel myself off a beach in the Costa del Sol after 17 hours of drunken unconsciousness on there. But there we go.
That might have been the beer.
I think it might have been, no, I think you might be spot on there, actually. But look, we have actually got loads and loads and loads coming your way tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We do want to hear from you as well throughout. GBViews at gbnews.uk. You can tweet me directly, of course, at Patrick Christie. Tweet us at GBNews. But can I just ask very quickly, a little bit off topic here, anyone here an ABBA fan?
Oh, absolutely.
No.
No?
No.
No?
I like some of the songs. I wouldn't say I'm a fan.
The reason I'm asking is that's where Dan Wootton is tonight.
With Benjamin Butterworth.
With Benjamin Butterworth.
On a double date.
Yes, an unlikely ABBA pairing, apparently, but there we go. There is a joke in there somewhere, but I absolutely can't make it. Anyway, coming up, as a new study suggests, Anglican, Catholic and Methodist churches could die out within 40 years. Who or what is to blame, really, for Britain ABBA is ABBA, yes, absolutely, yes. Becoming an increasingly godless country. Anne Widdecombe, a woman of God, of course, will weigh in on that at 9:40. But first, after Sue Gray's revelations about the treatment of government security staff and cleaners, should we judge people based on how they treat service staff? TV cleaning guru Kim Woodburn takes on former Apprentice star Navid Soul. But who will wipe the floor with who? Yeah, see what we did there? I want to know what you think about this as well. Email gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweet us with the handle @GBNews. There's also a poll on this where you can vote right now. Take part, bit of direct democracy. We don't mind a bit of that. The results will be coming after the break.
Hello, Alex Deakin here with your latest weather updates. The skies will clear a little overnight, which should allow a bit more sunshine for most of us tomorrow, but it will also allow temperatures to fall, so a little fresh first thing on Friday morning. Here's the bigger picture. High pressure to the south, low pressure to the north. In between, a fair few weather fronts drifting across the country. They've been bringing a lot of cloud today. This one is edging away to the south, bringing drizzly conditions and a lot of mist across the southwest, but otherwise pulling away, allowing breaks in the cloud to allow it to turn quite chilly. We will keep showers coming into northern and western parts of Scotland overnight and a fairly brisk wind here. But temperatures dropping where we've got the clear skies and lighter winds across the heart of the country down to single figures. Not far off freezing in some rural spots, so a chilly start to Friday, but by and large a fine day to come for most of us. Still some showers across Scotland, mostly north of the central belt, and even here they will tend to ease through the day, but still a few heavy ones possible. From the central belt southwards then, it's looking mostly dry, fine with good spells of sunshine. A warmer feel as well, certainly in the south, 21, maybe 22 Celsius. During Friday evening, temperatures will drop quite sharply. The showers, though, will continue to fade from northern Scotland, so for most it's going to be dry and fine with clear skies as we head into the weekend. That's going to, again, allow things to be quite chilly on Saturday morning, but most of us will have a fine, bright, blue sky day on Saturday. Certainly lots of sunshine in the morning. The cloud will bubble up a little through the day. Small chance of a few showers in northeast Scotland, very slim chance of a shower over eastern England as well. But I say for the vast majority it's dry and bright on Saturday. Temperatures not spectacular but feeling pleasant in the sunshine. Quite a cool feel again in the northeast with a fairly brisk wind. And for most of us, Sunday will be the cloudier day of the two this weekend and feeling cooler as well. Bye for now.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Time now for The Clash. Now, one of the grimmer details from yesterday's Partygate report included revelations that boozy government staff mistreated security guards and cleaners after apparently vomiting around the Cabinet Office and spilling wine at a Christmas bash. Now, Sue Gray branded the quote, multiple examples of a lack of respect and poor treatment, unacceptable, and worried that it made employees uncomfortable with raising concerns about lockdown breaching behaviour. So here's what Boris Johnson had to say about some of the damning accusations during his presser today.
For cleaners to clean up, staff who work for you were rude to security members in this building. What steps are you taking beyond asking them to say sorry? And is there a place in your administration for that sort of behaviour?
As I said earlier on, if people have been, I think it's utterly intolerable for people to be rude to hard-working staff. And at the very least, that they should apologise.
Yeah, now, if you watched Dan's brilliant show last night, you would have heard Tory MP Michael Fabricant reveal how Boris was due to wake up at the crack of dawn this morning to personally apologise to and thank all cleaners working at Number 10. A noble gesture, really, isn't it, in the wake of some pretty torrid behaviour? But I do want to see where you stand on this. Is it fair to judge people based on how they treat service industry workers? I want to make something very clear just quickly before we get stuck into this. I have repeatedly said that I think it's time that we move on from Partygate. I mean, I suppose it's only fair to drag Beergate out a bit longer, isn't it? But I'm happy for us to move on from Partygate. I think this is one element of it, OK, that I do think is worthwhile getting stuck into. I'm not, OK, don't shoot me. I'm not as bothered about the rule-breaking, potentially, certainly the parties, as many people are. I'm just not, and I'm not going to fake that for you. But I am bothered about people being rude to staff. Anyway, service industry workers such as cleaners, security guards and even waiters were apparently badly treated. So what does it say about these people's character, the kind of DNA inside Number 10? And from what we've heard, there was rather a lot of that DNA splattered around the Cabinet Office. But anyway, let me know your thoughts by emailing gbviews@gbnews.uk or tweeting me at gbnews. You can also vote in our poll while you're here as well. I'll bring you the results very, very shortly. We're doing battle on this tonight. It's TV cleaning guru Kim Woodburn and, of course, pharmacist and star of the latest BBC Apprentice series, Naveed Sol. Thank you so, so much. In your personal experience, Kim, in your personal experience, do people treat cleaning staff very badly?
Disgustingly, my love. I lived in houses cleaning for nearly 40 years. I worked in America for these stinking moguls that were horrible. I worked in London for vile people, and it will continue. The day of, it's only the cleaner. What the hell does that mean? You walk into a room and you're dusting, and I've done it many times. You're flicking a duster, and the woman will say to the person, "No, so it's only the cleaner." Now, don't give this rubbish. They treat you like dirt, dear, because they're dirt themselves. There's always this... Look at when I was on Big Brother, to bring this up, what was his name? The dancer. What was his name? I can't remember. And he said, "Why don't you go back to your cleaning, woman? That Robin, you were just a cleaner." What is this just a cleaner rubbish? We're clearing up your toilet, dear, your faeces, your pee and your filthy dust. You make it, we clean it. What does that make you?
Goodness me, I'll tell you what, I have apologised for the state of my flat, Kim, but there we go. Naveed, I'd just like to get your view on this right now. Do you think that actually people do look down on cleaning staff, look down on waiters?
You know what? First, I want to say hi, Kim. Hi, everyone. I think Kim's going to hate me if I keep going against her. But honestly, I feel like just people don't really look down on cleaners or even helpers. I think it's more just to do with the immense amount of pressure. And I definitely think, like Boris Johnson, he is a prime minister. He's the leader of the country. So he is stressed. So I just feel like people just need to have a bit of a thicker skin and not take things so personally. And you know what? I just think people just need to take a chill pill and just relax. It's not personal. He's just having a bad day. And we're all humans at the end of the day.
Okay. You know, young man who I liked a minute ago, I'm not so keen now. What do you mean you're making it? I'm glad you're laughing, dear. I'll have to have a gin. Hang on. Excuse me.
Oh, here she is. I was wondering when this was going to come out. There we go.
You know
yes.
you are Kim. You know I'm not a council, young man. I'm speaking.
Navid,
you have said
let Kim respond.
they could be in a bad mood. Well, tough bloody nuts. I'm in a bad mood cleaning their feces, and I don't shout at them. Don't make excuses to ignorant people because they've got a few bob. I don't care if you're the Queen of England. You don't speak to your hired help. You don't speak to anybody like that. So don't make excuses. I'd hate to work for you. I bet you'd be a right little rat bag.
Go on, Navid, respond to that then.
But honestly, Kim, you know what? The thing is also we never know what happens behind closed doors. It could be, for example, I'm not trying to offend anybody, but it could be that the cleaner might take the advantage of Boris Johnson because he's in the public eye to kind of make the press and try to make some money behind the scenes. So you never really know what goes on. You just exaggerate it.
Why are you saying because he's Boris Johnson, he has a very responsible position that gives him the right as a worker to treat me, the worker, like crap? Why has he got the right?
Okay.
If I turned to him and said to him, Boris, don't talk to me like that, you fat freak, he'd say, how dare you? But he's just spoken to me like dirt. Don't make excuses for them. Nobody should be rude to anybody.
I'm not sure.
But Kim, my darling, we're human beings. We are human beings. We have the right to react. We might just have a bad day.
So do I.
Okay, all right. Have you ever snapped? Okay, Kim, have you ever snapped back? Have you ever snapped back?
Don't you think I go into work some days when I was a cleaner and I think, I don't feel too good today. I've got all this stuff to do. But when my boss comes, I don't say, morning, rat bag. I say, morning, sir. My job. And it's just his or her job to be however they're feeling. Don't take it out on the poor cleaner. No.
Okay. Well, that's a really interesting turn of phrase. Never give me one sec, because I think you said the phrase the poor cleaner there, and that can be interpreted. I know that exactly how you meant it, Kim. Don't get me wrong, but I wonder whether or not that's the point as well. If you're working in the epicentre of power, you're working right at the heart of Downing Street. You're a very powerful person, potentially quite wealthy as well. Navid, do you think those people look down on the poor, on the people who are at the lower end of the economic spectrum? But Navid, that's it.
I mean, you know what? You know what?
We go back to Victorian times, don't we? And servants were just trash. Why they've got this name, she's only or he's only the cleaner. We're just workers like you. Whether you're the Prime Minister, I'm your cleaner, you have a secretary. We're all entitled to the same politeness, my love.
Okay, Navid.
Kim, my darling, I think people need to have thicker skin. I just think people take it too seriously. And I do feel like with Boris Johnson, I feel like people are gang-handing him. There's like so many attacks on him. And I just feel like we need to try and put our shoes in his kind of situation to understand what is really going on.
Yes, he's human. Attack the person that attacked you. Oh, what? Have a right go. Don't pick on the cleaner the lathies. Don't come into me and start going at me. I'm in his toilet, dear. What have I got to do with it?
One at a time. Kim, you go. Kim, you carry on. Go on.
I'd hate to work for you.
Kim, actually, I'm a lovely pharmacist.
You are enabling.
Speaking the truth.
Okay. And there's an argument. There's an argument, isn't there?
Young man, you are now on this programme, young man, enabling, given the right to people that have got money and employ cleaners to treat them like dirt. I'm ashamed of you. I thought you were so lovely. I don't like you. Excuse me.
I'm just going to have
Kim,
to...
I don't want you to hate me. I love you dearly.
Okay, right. Well, I'll tell you what. Just both of you, shut up. Right, Navid, you answer my question. All right. Okay. So look, I want to reiterate that these were young staff, apparently, allegedly, anyway. The argument would be potentially that they were so under pressure at the height of a global pandemic, and they just couldn't handle it. Okay, and they let off too much steam, and that's why we ended up where we are. Navid, can you buy that at all?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again, my darling?
This is just the argument potentially that these were young staff.
I can't hear him. Sorry, Kim, you're speaking.
Right, Kim, sorry about this. Navid, can you hear me now, please? Yeah.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, right. What about the argument that these were young staff who couldn't handle the pressure at a time of unprecedented international crisis and were letting off too much steam?
You know what? Honestly, I just feel like they're just being a bit sensitive in terms of their emotion. And I think if they're young, they just need to like have this thicker skin and really not take things personally. And, you know, in a way, it could be a learning lesson for them just to be stronger when it even comes to the real world. Do you know what I mean? So I just feel like people need to stop complaining, stop exaggerating, and just learn and just not take things so seriously. Do you know what I mean, my darling? That's what I say.
Okay. You need to man up, Steph.
The day I take it off people when I'm doing a clean job and I get my £200 a week when they're earning 130,000, you know, young man, I like you, but you're an idiot.
No, I'm not an idiot, Kim. As a matter of fact, I'm just speaking the truth, and it's really my opinion.
Everybody with money who employs domestic
people personally, and it shouldn't be that way.
Okay, all right, Naveed, I'm going to give the very last word to you. Have you ever thrown up and made a cleaner clean it up?
Oh, to me? Is that what you're asking?
To you, yes.
Oh, yeah, well, yes, because at home I do have a helper, but you know what, I'm always nice to her. But obviously there are some days where I do get frustrated if she doesn't really follow my instruction. And when I had a bad day at work, sometimes I take it out and it's my reaction, but I don't mean it personally. And I do apologize at the end, saying, oh, I'm sorry if I behaved this way. I was just stressed and I was overthinking the situation. But you know what? I owned up to it and I took basically responsibility of that. And, you know, I'm human. So, darlings, don't take it personally. I'm just saying.
Wow. Okay, Kim, final word to you then.
I'll tell you something. I don't care however wealthy you are. If you're an adult and you vomit, you should clean it up. That shouldn't be asked of a cleaner. You're disrespecting a human being. There's not another one will clean it up. You take this, she's only a cleaner. Now, you've got that attitude whether you like, oh, don't be silly. Why should I clean your vomit up, you lazy beggar?
My darling.
That, I think...
If I'm not home, she's the helper, you know, not to be rude, but she has a job as well, which we're paying.
Did she wipe your bum as well?
It's not for free.
Did she wipe your backside when you get off the loo? Does everything else, Mike? Wipe your bum as well, you lazy beggar.
No, darling. You're exaggerating.
Okay.
But I love you, Kim.
Okay, look, hey, we'll end where we started, which was essentially with a massive shouting match. Kim, thank you very much. Kim Woodburn there, of course, and Navid Saul.
I will never work for you, you rat bag.
Okay, all right, Kim, now, right in. But, right, knock it off.
I'm on the booze, excuse me.
Right, we're done. Okay, thank you very much. Good grief. Right, okay, anyway, so who do you agree with, ladies and gentlemen? Lisa on Twitter says, yes, it's fair to judge how people treat others. You should treat everyone the same. There's no reason to be discourteous. Steve's been on as well, also on Twitter. Yes, treat people well on the way up. This is a good one, this, because you may well meet them on the way back down. I think that's a very, very wise phrase, that, Steve. But Kaz on email, well, she says, in supermarkets, pubs and shops where I live, many staff have an entitled opinion of themselves. They're just plain ignorant. And your verdict is now in, ladies and gentlemen. It's poll result time, that's right. And 86% of you say that it is fair to judge people on how they treat service workers, while 14%, that's 1 in 4, say that it's not. Goodness gracious me, that's an absolute whirlwind, that, wasn't it? But thank you very much for everyone who's been getting in touch with us, who's been taking part in our poll. Coming up, do the Scots need to hold Sturgeon to account for her COVID cock-ups? James Melville will be here to give his thoughts in The Outsider, and that's at 9:50. But first, is Britain in danger of becoming a completely godless society? Does it matter if we do, I suppose? A new study has suggested that we're heading that way. Devout Catholic Anne Widdecombe weighs in next in Big Widdy style.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Defence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Right, we're off to a flyer so far, aren't we? Now, if you thought you'd heard the end of the doomsday R number after the COVID hysteria, think again. The notorious technique used to calculate the rate at which diseases are spreading is now being used to measure the contagiousness of religion. And, well, you know what? It's not looking good for some British churches, no. Mathematician Dr. John Hayward has analysed data from 13 denominations to assess the rate at which their membership is growing or indeed declining, with a reproduction number of less than 1 indicating total extinction. And that apparently is on the horizon. Well, the study found that the Anglican, Catholic and Methodist churches all face dying out in Britain within 40 years. Can you imagine that? That's insane. As their brand of religion apparently isn't contagious enough. Well, the evangelical, easy for me to say, and Pentecostal churches operating independently from the historic institutions are actually growing. So speaking about his findings, Dr. Hayward warned the Church of England and Catholics should last until the second half of the century. However, they need to take urgent action now. Stemming losses is not enough. They should put all aside to encourage members to make new disciples who can replicate themselves. So, with the study making for bleak reading, who or what is to blame for Britain becoming an increasingly godless country, apparently? Former Tory Minister Anne Widdecombe joins me now. Anne, thank you very, very much. Well, according to this study, Catholics like yourself, essentially, could all be extinct by 2062. You're going to be a religious dodo, Anne.
I doubt it very much, but I think the problem is with Christians themselves. It's no good looking to the church or to the government or to anybody else. It's Christians. I mean, quite honestly, if the early Christians had shown the same level of enthusiasm for getting the message out there that Christians today show, we would all still be worshipping Zeus. Quite honestly, right. Christianity would never have got off the ground. And it got off the ground because of people like St. Paul and masses of early Christians who just took the message out there. Now, it's no good lamenting the fact that the congregations aren't swelling if the Christians themselves aren't actually promulgating the gospel, which is what I actually thought we were here to do.
Right, OK, so you think that people aren't making a good enough case for Christianity, because you could argue that people in other religions are doing that, aren't they? I mean, the North London Jewish community, the North Manchester Jewish community, for that matter, doesn't appear to be going away anytime soon. Huge, huge, huge pockets of almost entire Muslim areas now in the United Kingdom as well. Is it just because they're more overt in their beliefs?
Frankly, yes, and because they're not apologetic about their beliefs. You know, they will state what they think, and they don't apologise for it. Christians are very, very apologetic. You know, they don't stand up for what they think. They're terrified that people will think they're a bit odd or something. You know, and that is what the problem is. And I don't want to hear, you know, what are the hierarchy going to do about it, or what are the bishops going to do about it? What are the Christians in the pews going to do about it?
OK, well, look, come on then. What really can they do? Because I think, you know, the idea now for kids, especially of wanting to go to church on a Sunday morning instead of going and playing football with their mates, is going to be quite a hard case to make, especially to this kind of iPad, Instagram, instant gratification generation.
Well, it isn't a hard case to make if what you are doing is getting the message through first. It's no good saying to somebody, come to church. Why would they want to come to church? But if you actually can get the Christian message through, then I think you've got a real chance anyway. And that's why the evangelicals are flourishing, because that's what they spend their time doing. I know. Yeah. I mean, they can be quite nuisances sometimes, but the nuisance value pays off for them. So I'm a great believer that you're just active and you take your case out there. But I would say this, the post-Christian society that we're living in is a pretty depressing one. We have instant judgment. We have a lack of forgiveness. We have the evils that are often demonstrated on social media with people piling in, trying to bully other people. All this is a result of not being able to say there, but for the grace of God go I.
No, indeed. I did. It's interesting you mentioned there about the evangelicals. I know they're not evangelical particularly, but I did get Mormoned once on the tube, and I did think initially it was an advert for the Book of Mormon on the West End, and it turned out it wasn't. Before I knew it, I'd nearly signed up to a new religion. But anyway, Anne, I mean, look, make the case for Christianity then. Why does it matter if Christianity in this country really dies out, I suppose? Come on, what is that case?
Well, I think I've already demonstrated to you some of the results of it dying out, and the absence of forgiveness, I think, is the most horrendous of all. And now the view is, nobody can be redeemed. Everybody's beyond redemption. The Christian message is one of redemption. It's redemption through Christ. And so I think that is a message we need to hear. But you leave it to the average Christian, and you won't hear it at all.
I wonder a bit, Anne, whether or not people almost want Christianity to die out. We do seem to be having a massive, never-ending push for things like diversity. It's bracketed often in the context of tolerance and inclusivity, but sometimes I look at it and I think it just means that, quite literally, the changing face and changing religion of Britain. Do you think there's a bit of a plan at play here?
Well, I think there's no doubt at all that when people talk about diversity, they don't include Christianity in that.
No.
Because if you express Christian views at work, you're told you've offended people and all the rest of it. So Christians obviously aren't part of diversity. And I mean, I've noticed that for a long time to come. But again, it's down to us. It's down to Christians to be heard and to make the case. And if they don't, then, they will die out and they will deserve to. But fortunately, there are plenty of other countries in the world in which Christianity is growing. We shouldn't forget that.
Can I ask how God has helped you, how the Christian God has helped you?
Oh, well, let me just first of all say it's not only about getting help from God. Of course, I do regularly every day. But that's not what it's just about. It's also we have a mission on this earth, if you like, to spread the word. And Christianity can be very demanding. So I don't just want to suggest that it's merely a crutch that you can prop up on. But if you are a believer, you're never alone. You're never, ever alone.
And I tell you what, when we've just got out of a lockdown, for example, and self-isolation, and you look at what's going on potentially anywhere with monkeypox, and you can look at that, there's talk of self-isolation there, it's never been better to never be alone. And Widdicombe, thank you very, very much. Of course, a prominent member of the Christian faith, former Tory minister, speaking very, very passionately about Britain and it being a Christian country. Now, I really enjoyed that, but get your views coming in, GBViews at gbnews.uk. But coming up, has Rishi Sunak thrown red meat to the socialists over the windfall tax, as one Tory MP claimed, or was it a necessary U-turn? My superstar panel will debate that in the media buzz, and that's at 10 p.m. Also, we'll find out the newspaper reaction to Rishi's measures then as well. But first, does Nicola Sturgeon, that's right, yes, the brave heart up north, need to be taken to task by the Scottish people for her COVID totalitarianism? Political writer James Melville gives his unmissable take in The Outsider, and that is next.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
with honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Welcome back. Now, James Melville is tonight's outsider. Now, yesterday, Nicola Sturgeon became the longest-serving Scottish First Minister in history, but any celebrations were put on hold after she tested positive, classic, for COVID this week. And in true Sturgeon style, she set about bigging up the threat posed by the virus, tweeting, "Once again, this time from personal experience, please do get all doses of the vaccine if you haven't already. COVID can be nasty and vaccination protects against much more serious illness." Well, right now, I'm feeling extremely grateful for that. That's what she had to say. So, Nicola, just change the record, will you? We've heard all this kind of rhetoric from you constantly since 2020. She's had loads of doses of the vaccine. She's still got COVID. I mean, I've never seen a jab like this in my life before, have you? But not that your authoritarianism, of course, Nicola, during the pandemic, did much to actually combat the virus, because Scotland became the COVID capital of Europe last year. Yeah, not content with being the drug death capital, I think maybe the alcohol capital as well. No, they had to have COVID as well. So despite some of the harshest measures being introduced, but Nicola doesn't want you to focus on that right now. No, no, no. She wants you to look the other way. This week, she made a big push for independence in the Scottish MSM, insisting that now was the time to, quote, debate our constitutional future. Well, as well, there's a new YouGov poll showing that no progress has been made on the issue since 2014, with the same percentage of Scots voting to stay in the Union as in the independence referendum. Except, of course, there'll be plenty of potentially futile discussion now of the country's future. While Sturgeon's COVID totalitarianism is lost to the past. Well, there we go. I believe that James is joining us right now. James, yes, brilliant stuff. Thank you very much. Great to have you on board. Nicola Sturgeon really could have made hay here, essentially, during the pandemic, couldn't she? She could have shown true leadership. She could have shown, basically, that she was fit to run an independent nation. But actually, she's not made any inroads in the polls, as far as we can see.
Yeah, I think there's a separation between independence and also her handling of COVID. I mean, I find it confusing with Nicola Sturgeon. I'm broadly sympathetic to the independence cause about self-determination. If it's the will of the people, then so be it. And I think there will be another referendum at some point. And I actually used to be a bit of a fan of Nicola Sturgeon, but my opinion has changed based on the measures she has put through over the last 2 years, which I think have been heavy-handed. I think she's milked it sometimes. She's always gone a little bit further than the British government, it seems like, to prove a point. So much so, Scotland had forms of vaccine passports, which we didn't get to in England, probably because of Partygate, but Sturgeon put them through. They were unworkable for a number of different reasons. in particular to do with transmissions and the vaccine. But Sturgeon and her approach to COVID in the hour of an emergency in Scotland, I think, has created a mentality in Scotland that might take a while to shake off. I've been up to Scotland a number of times visiting family and friends over the last few months, and there's a mood difference still in Scotland, I would say, in the response to COVID compared to England. And I find that actually quite heartbreaking.
OK, all right. I mean, is there actually anything about Nicola Sturgeon that you think indicates that she could run a country, or is she just some kind of pound shop Braveheart?
I think the perception of Nicola Sturgeon largely borne out by a lot of the media in Scotland, the public, is that she seems a little bit more professional than Boris Johnson, and I will actually give her that, although basically Boris Johnson looking at it from a low baseline. But there is, I think, from my own point of view, the impression that she has taken COVID and the response to COVID too far. It's going on too long. Scotland's at a point now where it should be like, for instance, in England, where Scots are getting on with their lives. They're learning to live with COVID, and the freedoms are being unravelled for the people in Scotland. So people in Scotland feel free, confident that they can move on with their lives, especially with this current variant, which is nowhere near as bad as it, say, was a year ago. But Sturgeon is not giving impression and is effectively locking Scotland in fear.
OK, all right. Does she get an easy ride? Every time I turn on the Scottish media, every time I read the Scottish media, it just seems like Queen Nicola.
That's changed as well with her. It used to be that she got a lot of stick because of the independence debate, but since COVID, it has flipped. It is Queen COVID, it's Queen Nicola, and it'll be interesting to see what happens over the next few years as the long march towards the next referendum happens. What will be the media perception of Nicola Sturgeon then? Or is it just a short-term thing based on the response to COVID?
Yeah, I've never quite understood why nationalism north of the border is OK, but nationalism south of the border is a very, very dirty thing. But I remain unconvinced. You will know a lot better than me, of course, on this, but I remain unconvinced that the vast majority of people in Scotland who want Scottish independence also want things like, you know, it to be easier for trans kids to change their gender identity, to have people like that in prisons, etc., etc., etc. I'm just not convinced that the vast majority of the Scots want all of that as well as independence. But you tell me.
I agree. There's an issue between sort of the woke loud voices versus what the silent majority want. And that is a discussion in itself. It's not just happening in Scotland, it's happening all over the world. My view on independence is actually quite a complicated one. I think Scotland, if they so desire, should go for independence. But my vision of independence is that Scotland becomes confident and in keeping with what the majority want. That's not just about independence. It's also about society. It's about culture. Some of the measures that have been developed by the Scottish Government of late are bonkers. They're for the birds. That is not my vision of independence. So you've got to separate the two out. You can have dodgy governments in Scotland right now might be pushing Scottish independence, but that's a different issue to independence itself.
Yeah, OK. I just wonder whether or not, if England had a referendum on Scotland, whether or not we'd sack off the Scots. What do you think?
You don't want to get rid of the Scots. You love us. It's complicated. It's like a squabbling couple. You know, sometimes we love each other, sometimes we fall out. It's an interesting debate. I think probably you put up with the Scots. I think you would. But I think in Scotland it is going to be knife edge. You've got a new generation of voters coming through there. The last time around, Alex Salmond, for all his failings, ran a very, very good campaign to narrow the gap. He didn't quite get there, and I think the next time round, which I think it will happen, it will be a knife-edge vote.
Yeah, and I'm really pleased. It's almost like we planned this, actually. I'm really pleased that you raised Alex Salmond there, because he actually said that Nicola Sturgeon was using independence as a political shield to, well, essentially deflect from what he would regard, anyway, as being her poor governance. Do you think there's some truth in that?
I think there is a truth in that. I mean, I think the achievements under Alex Salmond were probably greater. I mean, Salmond's obviously got crosses to bear elsewhere, but the legacy in terms of achievements, in terms of First Minister, you know, Salmond had a lot in terms of the figures, in terms of health and education and crime and also infrastructures. There's a lot of figures that are stacking up against Sturgeon at the moment. I mean, if you look at, for instance, drug rates or the declining standards in terms of education and health, admittedly, a lot of that is muddled up with COVID. But it seems to me, and you could apply the same thing with the Tory government as well, when you have a government that's in too long, they get lazy, they get sloppy, and standards start to slip. And I think potentially there might be that sort of domain in Scotland right now. As I said, my opinion with the SNP government, which I did have a lot of sympathy for, has changed in terms of their response to COVID, but that has not changed my views on independence.
Nigel Farage said that Nicola Sturgeon wasn't a very nice woman to deal with. Is she a nice woman, do you think?
I mean, I can't pass comment on that. I mean
why not?
because Nicola Sturgeon to me gives off the impression of being on top of her brief, professional. That was shown through the COVID response. I disagreed with how far she's taken the COVID response. I think there is elements of authoritarianism crept in there, not just on COVID, but some of the other measures. You've touched on a couple of others, which is dangerous in terms of woke territory that might not be in keeping with what the Scottish people want. I think that happens with a lot of governments. When they're in power too long, then they start grabbing more and more power. And I have a massive problem with that. I think the balance for Scotland is, essentially, if they want independence, they want freedom. So therefore, give freedom to the people.
I was so desperate to make you shout the word freedom then, but I thought that would be a bit on the nose, really, mate. But it's not really freedom, is it? You'd be going straight back into Brussels. Brussels is bosom.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, the response to COVID was the juxtaposition of what Nicola Sturgeon is saying about freedom in terms of independence. If you want to be a free country, first of all, you've got to let your people free. Now, I say this as a Remainer with the whole Brexit debate. So my political opinions are deeply confusing for even myself. But the point being with independence is there has to be an empowerment, not just politically. That's for the politicians. It has to be empowerment for the people itself. My vision of Scottish independence, based on the response to COVID, seems to be a little bit different to what the SNP are wanting in terms of the terms and definitions of freedom. So independence for Scotland should be about maintaining and developing self-confidence as a nation and for the individual, not grabbing power for politicians.
James, thank you very, very much. Great stuff, that. Thoroughly enjoyed it. That's James Melville there, of course. Writer and journalist. What do you think, though, ladies and gentlemen? Come on, don't be shy. I want to hear from you. GBViews at gbnews.uk. Do you think, actually, if there was a referendum in England, let's include Wales and Northern Ireland in that as well, it's only fair, because we are, of course, the People's Channel, but do you think we'd vote to sack off the Scots, actually? Would it go that way round? Why is it just the Scots who get to vote on whether or not they can leave? But anyway, all of that coming your way very, very shortly. Well, it's 10 p.m. I think that earlier hour was one of the fastest hours of TV I've ever actually done. This is Patrick Christie's Tonight in for Dan Wootton tonight. As Rishi Sunak announces payments for pensioners and the poorest households in response to the cost of living crisis,
I can announce today we will send directly to around 8 million of the lowest income households a one-off cost of living payment of £650.
Has the Chancellor bought into the fantasy of the magic money tree? And are his announcements today enough to win the Tories the next election? I'll debate that in just a few moments with my superstar panel. We've got Conservative commentator Dominic Samuels, we've got former Tory London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, and we've got the one and only author and journalist in the shape of Amy Nicola. We'll also learn as well throughout the show how the newspapers have reacted to Rishi's measures, or whether they'd rather keep harping on about Partygate. As they edit official information to make monkeypox sound even more threatening, are the NHS guilty of scaremongering? Social media voice of reason Zuby will cut through the hysteria and noise in Uncancelled, and that's at 10:40. As the woke radicalisation of our children continues, I'll speak to Paul Rossi, the teacher ejected from his position and cancelled for speaking out against the harmful impact of lessons on race. Is that all going to come our way very, very soon? Well, it's coming our way, actually, at 10:20, but I mean, of course, across the Atlantic. Now, as woke theatre bosses warn that a Shakespeare play about the murder of Julius Caesar contains knives, I know, have trigger warnings gone too far? Yes. Plus, can you tell what's wrong with this dog? If you're listening on radio, well, I mean, it's a dog, really. Or is it? The disturbing truth will be revealed. And that's in the media buzz at 10:30. Plus, tonight, the power is in my hands as I crown the final greatest Briton and Union Jackass of the week. But first, here's your news with Polly Middlehurst.
Patrick, thank you. The top stories tonight on GB News. Millions of households will receive a £400 discount off their energy bills as the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, unveils a £15 billion support package to tackle the cost of living crisis. Other measures introduced today include a one-off payment of £650 for the lowest earners and a 25% temporary levy on oil and gas firms. Rishi Sunak says people should be reassured that benefits and pensions are also likely to rise significantly higher than inflation next year.
Focused on delivering for people, and that's what today was about. And the timing of today is because we now have more clarity about what's going to happen to energy bills in the autumn. We heard from Ofgem earlier this week about the potential scale of the increase, and that's why we took decisive action to provide £15 billion worth of support to help the country get through the challenging months ahead.
4 Conservative MPs say they no longer support the Prime Minister since the publication of Sue Gray's Partygate report. A total of 20 Tory MPs have so far publicly called for his resignation. Separately, Acting Police Commissioner Sir Stephen Howes has defended the Metropolitan Police's investigation of the Partygate scandal.
Many of the photographs that we are seeing look bad, and Sue Gray's report has dealt with that. We deal with the law, not what looks bad. And just because there is alcohol present, can I just remind people that the COVID regulations are about breaching COVID regulations. They're not about whether there's drink there or not.
New figures show the number of lone children seeking asylum in the UK is at its highest level since records began in 2006. More than 4,000 unaccompanied children travelled to the UK in the year to March. The overall number of asylum claims made have climbed to the highest level in almost 2 decades, with more than 55,000 applications in the same time period. Meanwhile, the backlog of applications continues to soar, with over 100,000 yet to be processed. Health news, and 8 more cases of monkeypox have been identified in England. It follows the first cases of the virus being recorded in Wales and Northern Ireland earlier today, with a further 2 cases being discovered in Scotland. The UK Health Security Agency says the new cases bring the total in the UK to 90, but that the overall risk to the population remains low. In the world of entertainment, Jamie Lee Curtis and Viola Davis are among the Hollywood stars paying tribute to Goodfellas actor Ray Liotta following his death. The 67-year-old found fame in the film Something Wild, but is perhaps best known for starring in the 90s American blockbuster Goodfellas, directed by Martin Scorsese. The actor's publicist said he died in his sleep in the Dominican Republic, where he was working on his latest film. On TV, online and on your radio via DAB+, you're with GB News. And now it's back to Dan Wootton Tonight with Patrick.
Tomorrow's news tonight now in our media buzz. Let's kick off with the very first look at the front pages, and these actually are very much hot off the press at the moment. The Eye leads on Rishi Sunak's £15 billion energy support package, in which he promised to give every household a £400 discount on their energy bills. We'll have more on that in just a moment. And we're sticking with Rishi, Dishy Rishi or Fishy Rishi, depending on which way you look at it. Anyway, the Independent reports Sunak will soon be offering energy firms incentives for investing in fossil fuel extraction, with critics calling the move boneheaded. The paper also leads with a picture of the late Goodfellas star Ray Liotta, who's died, sadly, at the age of 67. The Daily Telegraph sticks with the Chancellor as well. There's a theme here, isn't there? This time covering his claims that the Conservatives are now the party of big spending. It's nice to actually see them talking about that kind of party when it comes to the Tories, of course, but boasting that the Tories are now more generous than Labour would be. Elsewhere, this will make a splash. We could see a run on fish and chip shops. That's right. There are fears for chippies up and down the land, already struggling with shortages caused by the Ukraine war, as ministers prepare to ban Russian fish. Those pesky Russian fish, eh? When will it end? Anyway, the Metro also leads on Rishi's plan to support families across the UK, as well as the premiere of ABBA's virtual comeback tour. Yes, which is, of course, where Dan is tonight, ladies and gentlemen. In case you wondered where he is, basically, he's chosen ABBA over you. No, I'm only joking. That's a bit mean. But anyway, my superstar panel are back with me now. Political commentator Dominique Samuels, former Tory London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, and author and broadcaster Amy Nicola. Great to have you all on the show. Thank you so, so much. Now, Rishi Sunak obviously has taken decisive action to ease the cost of living crisis after confirming that it'll hit energy firms with a 25% windfall tax. The levy will raise about £5 billion of revenue, which the Chancellor said will help to fund the £15 billion energy support package that he announced today. Sean, I'll go to you first, if that's all right, my good man, and just ask you whether or not you think that this is actually all a bit lefty.
Look, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. They all said that Rishi's not helping enough. Boris needs to get him to do something. Boris says, Rishi, sort this out. And Rishi was correct. He had to wait until Ofgem had come back and said, look, here's what the bills will look like before he could make a change and spend the money. But there is a notion that this country could run out of money. We have to be careful here. We have to be very careful. Remember, we've just come through the pandemic, very expensive. And when you tax companies excessively, they leave. And if the pandemic taught us one thing, it says international companies now can move around. So we have to create the right environment for companies, because employment and decent employment is what actually helps poor people out in the long run.
OK, Amy, I'll come to you in a second, but I just want to take a quick listen to what Rishi Sunak actually had to say earlier on.
We will send directly to around 8 million of the lowest income households a one-off cost of living payment of £650. From the autumn, we will send over 8 million pensioner households who receive the winter fuel payment an extra one-off pensioner cost of living payment of £300. 6 million people who receive non-means-tested disability benefits, we will send them from September an extra one-off disability cost of living payment worth £150. We have decided that the £200 of support for household energy bills will be doubled to £400 for everyone.
Yes, cash for everyone, money for us all. Anyway, Labour always relishes a chance to raise taxes, and the Shadow Chancellor criticised the delay in introducing the levy. Let's just take a quick listen to him. Oh, maybe not. OK, sorry, apologies about that. Anyway, Rishi's already being branded the Robin Hood Chancellor, despite his promise that companies that reinvested their profits in Britain would get back 90% of the new tax. He faced criticism from his own party too, as Tory MPs warned that the windfall tax could stifle economic growth by deterring investment. Right, OK, so, Amy, I'm going to finally go to you now, all right? What do you make of this? Do you think this is enough? 400 big ones, come on.
Well, my mum taught me, if something seems too good to be true, it possibly is. And I just feel like we have really today to toast Sue Gray for this cash injection, which we need not to forget is a one-off payment of a massive, massive payment. And would you not think it's slightly reactive in the sense that it's been a long time coming and it's much, much, much needed? But let's not forget, benefits have not risen in line with inflation. Wages are still incredibly low. This doesn't actually do any good in the long term. Yes, it does good very one-off payment-wise. Yeah, it's great, but it's not a long-term plan, and I think that's my problem. And this is still the Chancellor of raising taxes, national insurance, decreasing universal credit, and ultimately not doing the best.
Excluding the windfall tax, which has obviously been quite a shocking U-turn, this support package was actually already planned. It's just simply been brought forward. So when people say that, you know, this has come out of nowhere, Sue Gray, maybe that has something to do with it. But, you know, measures were going to be announced. For me, my issue with this, and overall I do think this is necessary, considering people are in so much hardship right now with inflation. My issue is I would have rather seen something like perhaps a 5 to 10% windfall tax, because I actually do support a windfall tax. Right. I think that the profits that oil and gas companies have seen have not been through innovation, it's been through sheer luck. Part of that, though, is also because we are subsidising these companies in order for them to invest in renewables, which has seen our energy prices absolutely skyrocket. Yeah. What I would have preferred is for the Chancellor to perhaps cut VAT, cut taxes, 5 to 10% windfall tax, stop the green levies and scrap the green subsidies, and then you will see naturally a decrease in people's energy
Do you not
bills.
find this
Unfortunately,
whole
that's
thing
not
a bit
happened.
cringe, like the big U-turn? I know you said it's been planned for a while, but why, if it's been planned for a while, did the Chancellor previously call this tax disastrous? It would be disastrous.
It's not a U-turn. If a government listens, how can we use the term U-turn? It's childish politics to say that to people. You've got to say to people, the government was asked to do a thing, they've looked at it, there's technical reasons they haven't done it. If you keep putting windfall taxes on companies, they will go elsewhere, that money. Okay. We lose the employment. The other pieces as well, we had to see what Ofcom came with in order to scale the size of this. And of course, this is part of the government's scheme to grow the economy anyway. Remember, the fastest growing G7 economy as we came out of the pandemic. This is a short-term tactic allied to the long-term tactics that we already have planned.
I support the windfall tax, but do you think that 25% is too much? Because I think Labour were calling for around 10 to 15%.
It's 4 times
But again, but what Labour was calling for, they were just saying, let's have a tax. They didn't work it through. What the Chancellor's been able to say to those companies, yes, you're going to pay this windfall tax because you've had such a good time, but as an economy, we're going to support you to deliver more jobs, more profit in the future, and
well, no, I agree with that.
It's much more complicated than this childish, let's just drop a tax.
I just want to get away slightly now from the magic money tree element to it and just talk about the political element of it, because, Amy, do you think this will be the kind of thing that could actually win some voters back?
No, I don't. I hope not. I hope that people can see through this and not be tricked. Because I think
I'd rather they starve instead.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is indisputably, this package will make all the difference. It's a long time coming. It needed to happen. But I hope that people can also be a little bit cynical in the way that they view this for what it is, which is a get out of jail free. He's literally throwing money at the situation.
It definitely isn't get out of jail free. It's costing a lot of money. But the other thing is this: if you're a government, and you govern, everything you do, people accuse you of trying to win elections.
Well, that's kind of part
He's not going to win this anyway.
What the job really is running the country properly, regardless of what's going to happen in an election. But let's be very clear about this. The thing that often is most important to people at election, particularly people who are struggling, is the economy. That's why nobody has voted Labour for a very long time, because they can't be trusted with the economy. Rishi Sunak has shown that the Conservatives can.
And at the same time, I think a lot of the free market neoliberal Conservatives forget why Boris got his 80-seat majority in the first place. Boris understood that people do want more spending from the Conservatives. He mentioned during his election campaign the legacy of austerity, particularly, and also the fact that, you know, this whole idea of the red wall seats that the Conservatives won, you know, these seats that would have traditionally voted Labour. You need to understand that most of the reason why he got those seats was because people want to see more spending. Most people in this country, actually, are socially more conservative and economically more to the left. So I think that it will gain some more support and some voters, definitely.
But I do think that
final word on this, then.
That vomit stained a lot more than the carpet, and people have been put off.
Yeah, I mean, probably, yeah, as well.
To be fair, it's rare that anyone's emerged particularly well after they've been massively sick. So, you know, there we are. But anyway, right, now, OK, we're just going to veer away from this very, very shortly, because they say that true love has no age. But one couple is certainly pushing the boundaries. So 19-year-old Italian Giuseppe Danna took the internet by storm this week after he revealed on TikTok that he proposed to his apparent girlfriend, who at 76 is almost 6 decades older than him. So in a clip now posted to Danna's account, the young Casanova can be seen kneeling on his right knee. Good job she didn't propose to him, she probably wouldn't be able to get back up, while passionately kissing his fiancée. In another clip, we get a close-up of the ring with the caption, "This is only the beginning of a long series." How long? We'll have to wait and see, of course. But anyway, unsurprisingly, not everyone online was on the same wavelength as this couple, who were regularly confused for grandmother and grandson, which I think is probably enough to give anyone the ick, isn't it, really? But with a few users questioning Giuseppe's real motives. Yes, that's right. But despite the negativity, he defended his proposal, saying, "My love is beautiful." Amy and Dominique, of course. Now, I noticed that the pair of you were already split on this on Twitter earlier today, I believe. So, yes, there we go. But I believe that we're going to have to go straight to the coming up now because... Are we not? No? OK, fair enough. Right, well, there we go. Amy, you wouldn't have a toy boy, would you?
Would I have a toy boy? He'd have to be about 12, wouldn't he? I don't know how that would work. But I'm all for age gap love. I think, you know, as you get older, you realise that these things don't matter, and it's finding the person that's right for you.
It's good enough for Emmanuel Macron.
OK, when I saw this story, first of all, ew.
You made a wild allegation.
Second of all, if the gender roles were reversed,
Which they often
and this
are.
was a 70-odd-year-old man with a 19-year-old girl, I'm pretty sure that the reception wouldn't be so
There
warm.
wouldn't even be a reception.
They
Everyone
think
would
he's
just go, oh, look, there's another one.
They think it's a bit pedo-y.
No way.
It is. It's weird.
The reason we're talking about it is because it's a woman for a
She's
change.
old enough to be his great-grandmother. What could you possibly have in common?
Sean, dare I ask?
Short walks on the beach, you know, a love of art.
With a Zimmer frame.
If you're two consenting adults, you should be able to get together with whoever you want to get with. You know, and look, when the roles are reversed, there would have been a lot more anger about it. But you've got to understand. Hold on. Listen, the young person in this equation is at least safe. He can just run away if it's all going wrong.
Well, yeah.
Leave them to it. I say, if their love is real, let them have their love.
No, I think he does.
But the
very
whole coverage
good.
of this has been ageist and misogynistic, and
If the love is... Hey, I'll tell you what, the love is very real in this room, as far as I'm concerned. You guys are absolutely fantastic, so thank you so much. But coming up, as snowflake bosses at the Globe Theatre warn audiences that Shakespeare's Julius Caesar contains knives... it's a bit of a spoiler alert, if you ask me. But anyway, are the woke too trigger-happy with trigger warnings? My superstar panel will return to debate that as the media buzz continues at 10:30. More of those newspaper front pages then too. But first, as the woke radicalisation of our kids continues, I'm joined by Paul Rossi, the American maths teacher who was cancelled for fighting back against schools indoctrinating pupils with critical race theory. He's here to tell his story right after the break.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
And the national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
Evening, everybody. Now, the woke mob have infiltrated our schools and will cancel anyone who stands up to the purported anti-racism infecting the curriculum of schools. Maths teacher Paul Rossi was ousted from the classroom after he accused Grace Church School of indoctrinating students in April last year. Paul said he bravely put his career on the line because he could no longer stay silent while witnessing the harmful impact that anti-racism teaching and critical race theory is having on children. The £45,000 a year New York City school, by the way, soon relieved him of his teaching duties, citing pressure from students, parents and faculty who reportedly expressed discomfort with his presence at school. But damning audio soon surfaced in which head teacher George Davison who had branded Paul unprofessional while effectively sacking him, is astonishingly heard agreeing with him a month later. Who'd have thought it? Who'd have thought it?
The fact is that I'm agreeing with you that there has been a demonization that we need to get our hands around in the way in which people are doing this understanding.
Okay, so you agree that we're demonizing kids?
We're demonizing we're demonizing white people for being born.
I mean, for goodness sake, it's there, isn't it? It's there in black and white, or at least in an audio recording. Well, despite the head of the school clearly agreeing with Paul's very valid concern that schools are making white students feel inherently racist, his teaching career there was over. Paul is now a senior education analyst at the Legal Insurrection Foundation, and I'm delighted, ladies and gentlemen, to say that he joins me live from New York now. Thank you very much, Paul. Great stuff, this. How do we stop the indoctrination of students with the so-called decolonised curriculum, then?
You know, I think it really has to come from parents and in some ways, ideally from the students themselves, but the social pressures are immense on them. So, you know, really what we're seeing in the United States is in both public and private schools, a parent movement to return to sanity and to break away from grouping students according to their minoritized status or their majority status, whether that's ethnically or their privileged status. And yeah, I've heard since my article came out and the recordings were published, I've heard from so many students in these schools telling me that their experiences match up with what I saw at my school. And, you know, they're particularly, I believe, upon the Black students or what's called the BIPOC students that has some of the worst impact. Because as I heard from some students that they say, you know, what am I supposed to be? Well, you are a minority. And who am I? Well, you're supposed to be angry. And what am I supposed to do? And so it's a self-fulfilling kind of prophecy.
No, I understand all of that. I'm very concerned about the demonisation of white people for being born. Can you elaborate on that, please?
Well, in their ideology, the idea is that, much as you said in a segment a few weeks ago, is that even 3-month-old babies can be racist if they prefer their parents who happen to be, or the skin color of someone who happens to be the same race as their parents. And so they, from these types of studies, which are hard to replicate and a little bit shoddy, they conclude that all of society has racialized us to the point where our biases determine what we think, what we say, and how we act.
In a really, really, really hypocritical way, what this does is remove almost individualism, remove the individual from this process at all. It pigeonholes people, groups them all together, shoves them into tiny little boxes and tells them how to think. And at the same time as, in my opinion, undermining black people and the intelligence of black people as well as other ethnic minorities by grouping them all together and telling them how to think, it's also demonising white people. I mean, it's not really helping anyone, is it?
No, and it really is attacking really the heart of what we as a society can be at our best, which is individualism, objectivity. Meritocracy is not perfect, but it's something that we're striving to get better at. But what they'll say about meritocracy, which is interesting, they'll say, since we don't have a perfect meritocracy, therefore the ideal itself is compromised and we need to go in a different direction. I think that's wrong.
I want to just focus in a little bit, less so now on the ideology and more of the people enforcing it or the institutions enforcing it. Now, I think there's a lot of cancel culture out there at the minute. There literally is a lot of cancel culture out there at the moment. And despite the fact that what you said, I think, was common sense, and clearly your boss basically agreed with, you were moved to one side because of maybe a fear of what you'd said. So actually, are people being silenced in the education system now?
Yes, and I think the worst impact is on the students. And what I saw was this idea that certain expressions, certain ideas, certain thoughts are not allowed in the discourse of a classroom, and viewpoint diversity has to be limited to protect the feelings, in this very condescending way. There's this idea that minority students can't handle certain opinions. And so that safe space mentality is where micro cancellations happen.
The world isn't a safe space. Sorry to interject. You're making some great points, but on that point, the world isn't a safe space. The world can be a very nasty, cutting, brutal, savage place. We are animals at the end of the day, really, and sometimes people behave like that. And I don't see what realistic purpose it serves to teach kids that they're going to have a life wrapped entirely in cotton wool. I don't want safe spaces for kids. I want them to be offended. I want them to be challenged.
Yes, I mean, a school is not the outside world. I think there are parameters that need to be placed on behavior, and those should be common sense. But when it comes to intellectual life, when it comes to the good faith pursuit of truth, which is really the value of all educational institutions for society, I think we need to commit to that. We need to cleave to that. We need to redouble our commitment to it, because we've gone way too far afield.
We have indeed, and I don't see what practical benefit it will serve to society. Can I ask, did any of the students get in touch with you? Did any of them reach out to you and say to you, look, we're sorry that you've gone?
Yes, and in fact, I did have several students that I taught in former years reach out to me, and really, these were some of the quiet students, some of the students that I thought were shy, and they told me that they just couldn't express themselves, and they were really happy that I'd said something. Another interesting thing is that the school itself conducted a survey of the faculty and students in the school about the truth of my claims and what I was saying in my article. And it revealed, a significant percentage, over 40%, saying there was a serious problem. The school was very divided. So I feel like what I did was necessary, and hopefully it'll help with the dialogue at the school, and they'll be able to make some changes.
Well, fingers crossed. And look, it's a very unfortunate fact of life, really, that sometimes people have to kind of lie down in front of the tanks at Tiananmen Square, as it were, in order to get changes enacted. And if, I'm sorry it was terrible for you, and it is terrible for you, don't get me wrong, but, if obviously your sacrifice, as it were, does help make a wider change, then maybe one day it'll be worth it, I suppose. But thank you very, very much. That was Senior Education Analyst at the Legal Insurrection Foundation, Paul Rossi. What do you make of that, ladies and gentlemen? I thought it was really, really fascinating stuff. Thank you very much, Paul. Right, well, coming up, has the NHS now joined the MSM in whipping up the monkeypox hysteria? So I mentioned this earlier on in the show, didn't I? We've had loads of your views coming in on this, but Zuby analyses whether health authorities are addicted to fear porn in Uncancelled at 10:40. But next, as the Globe Theatre warns audiences that Shakespeare's Julius Caesar contains knives, I know, when will this end, OK? Have woke trigger warning actually gone too far? My superstar panel will get stuck into all of that and much, much more in the media buzz just after this very short break.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV, on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere. We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices.
With honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
the People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was, in fact, a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's biggest stories, bombshell newsmaker interviews, and A-list guests. And I guarantee you, no spin, no bias, no censorship, and no reason to go to bed. That's Dan Wootton Tonight, Monday to Thursdays from 9 on GB News.
OK, let's return to tomorrow's news tonight in our media buzz. So more front pages have just dropped for us. Yes, more front pages have just dropped for us, that's right. The Daily Mail cover Rishi's £21 billion splurge, but crucially asked just when will the Tories get back to cutting tax? ABBA's big stage return also features on the front page as well, and I mean, that's where Dan Wootton is tonight, OK? Let's be honest, alongside fan favourite Benjamin Butterworth, and so I'm sure they're having a good time. I can only imagine what's going on there right now, to be fair, but anyway, right, The Sun gives Rishi a swerve by splashing on a football exclusive. Former England star Andy Carroll is pictured passed out with a blonde a day after a day of partying, weeks before his wedding to reality star Billy Mucklow. Oh, gosh, he's had a bit of a shocker there, potentially, hasn't he? Or not, depending on which way you look at it. Anyway, as well as highlighting Sunak's support package, The Guardian describes terror in Ukraine as an artillery bombards Kharkiv for the first time in 2 weeks. So the city had just begun to return to normality after Russian troops retreated. The Times reports that the Tories are split on Sunak's spending bonanza. They say that Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng remains opposed to a windfall tax in principle, while Jacob Rees-Mogg also raised concerns in a cabinet call today. We're over to the Daily Express now, ladies and gents, and this also hails Rishi's £1,200 lifeline for 8 million of Britain's poorest households. And could Jeremy Clarkson start World War III? That's right, it's the Daily Star. They splash on the former Top Gear host. Jovial comments about Brits cannibalising each other due to Ukraine war food shortages, easy for me to say that, being reported as a fact, apparently, as an actual fact on Russian state TV. I mean, goodness gracious me, hey? But more on the media buzz right now with tonight's superstar panel. We've got political commentator Dominique Samuels, former Tory London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, and author and broadcaster Amy Nicole. Good stuff. Well, it's obviously been Bard news. See what I did there? OK, fine, I'm here all week. Anyway, Bard news for anyone with a backbone, because Shakespeare has fallen victim to perhaps the most ridiculous trigger warning yet. In a double assault on both the arts and history, theatre-goers at the Globe in London have been made aware that a new production of Julius Caesar features knives. I think the worst thing about that is it's a massive spoiler alert. But anyway, there we go. In a play about a man obviously stabbed 23 times, who would have thought that there might be knives involved? Audiences of a weak constitution were also told to brace for depictions of war, self-harm, suicide and even stage blood in the 423-year-old play. Now, it's not the first time Shakespeare's fallen victim to trigger warnings. In 2017, Cambridge University came under fire for alerting its students, actual grown adults, to violent themes in Titus Andronicus, which you can tell I've never actually had anything to do with. It's called I am a remarkably uncultured man, but you already knew that. Anyway, and last year, the Globe sparked similar bafflement with their trigger warning splash spoiler of suicides in Romeo and Juliet. Well, anyone in the audience not aware of that was probably in the wrong place, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, this production of Julius Caesar is pretty woke all over, to be honest. The makers say that it's been, quote, re-angled to reflect our contemporary understanding of power. I mean, for goodness sake, anyway. While the Globe spiel reads, conspiracy to kill, public broadcast of cunning rhetoric, a divisive fight for greatness, ancient Rome has never felt closer to home. Subtle, eh? Subtle. And what in the name of statue pulling is this?
We're in a world, probably in the past few years, we're kind of reassessing how we deal with and how we remember our histories and where we come from. A lot of those preconceptions about who great leaders are and who we admire and who we look up to and where our current systems of power come from.
A2 Shakespeare, yes, indeed. Well, panel, we've seen trigger warnings appear on everything, haven't we now? From Little Britain to Jane Eyre, but I'm going to start with you, Dominique. Is this a step too far?
I don't actually think so.
Oh, here we go. We're in. Go on, why not?
I think trigger warnings on things like Jane Eyre and Little Britain are, I think, probably a bit stupid. But I think for something that actually does feature extreme violence, maybe a trigger warning makes sense. I mean, I don't know if I'm missing something here, because, like, you know, not everyone is familiar with all of Shakespeare's plays, so you might, you know...
You're looking at someone, yeah.
I mean, I've never watched this play, So, you know, there's a chance that people probably won't know that he was stabbed 23 times. So,
OK.
I don't know. I don't see the issue with this, really, actually.
OK. Go on, Amy.
I totally agree.
Oh, I'll tell you what.
I feel like I'm losing my mind.
We can't have this, ladies and gentlemen. We can't have this
It
at all.
surprises me because when you watch a film, it says this film may contain blah, blah, blah. And nobody has any problem with it, do they? So it's good. It could really help one or two people in the audience. And if everyone else doesn't care, then they don't need to
tell you
listen.
why this is utter nonsense.
Here we go.
I genuinely want to.
Go on, Sean. Speak some
Julius
sense.
Caesar never came out last week. The play is some 400 years old, apparently. People know what goes on.
I
there.
don't.
But here's the important part. Here's the important part. Once you start labelling things with trigger warnings, the next round of events is we'll remove things with trigger warnings. That's where the problem is. I also think it's an insult to the people who come and watch the play. They are well aware they are watching a play, a depiction. Nobody's being hurt. Nobody's being stabbed. They're well aware of that. And that person would know, as an adult, that if they can't deal with that, they probably wouldn't come.
Just on this, while I've got you talking, Sean, because obviously, look, you have spoken a lot about knife crime, OK, naturally, of course, and that's a massive issue, especially around London. So, you know, maybe trigger warnings, if it's a London-based audience, people may well have been victims of knife crime, I suppose. Maybe that's one of the reasons?
So look at it this way. The knife crime that goes on in Julius Caesar is an entirely different thing to the failings of our mayor in London to keep people safe. It's different. And if you actually mould these two things together, you demean people's lived experience. I can show you people who've had their children murdered. They do not associate that with a play about Julius Caesar. And that's why I think this trigger warning, we need to have a look at. And the other piece of this as well, if we put trigger warning on theatre pieces, there's a whole load of computer games, music and films,
that's true,
which actually need to be looked at first, I'd argue. But I think things need to be done in proportion. People who attend the theatre are well aware that it's a play, nobody's getting hurt.
But they've said they're going to make it a modern depiction of power, right? So does that mean they're going to, like, play ABBA, throw up and eat some cheese?
Very good. We see what you did there.
To change the content of the play.
Hey, ironically, did that Sue Gray report trigger you, Amy?
Very much.
That should have come with a trigger warning, should it?
I think it was underwhelming, to be honest.
I possibly thought it was a little bit as well, personally speaking.
Quietly devastating, I believe.
Oh,
quietly devastating.
Do you actually think that?
Come on.
I was reading it because I've attacked the Prime Minister so much. I was reading it and I was thinking, I was literally reading through, I was waiting for the smoking gun where I was waiting for something that was like, there he is.
The thing that really stood out to me was the fact that on the night of the infamous ABBA party, where somebody did
Dan Watson's at one of those right now.
They had to clean up the red wine. It was juxtaposed with a time when churches weren't even allowed to have people singing hymns at funerals.
I think that is a fair point, and I'll always agree on that. But if the media had chosen to focus on the staff culture that Boris had permitted to exist within Downing Street, I would have understood. But the focus...
They personalised it, wasn't it?
Yeah, they personalised it too much. They made it too much about Boris partying. From this report, he was not partying it up, and that's just...
Sure, obviously, I don't want to break up the dead, mate, but, you know, you, I suppose, fell on your sword a little bit over something a bit like this, I suppose. How do you feel about him not going, then?
I think, for me, they've focused on the culture of Number 10. So, for people who don't know, I used to work in Number 10, and the idea that the Prime Minister sets the culture for a huge number of civil servants is actually not true. The civil service set that culture, as far as I could see, and I've been there, I worked there for more, 18, 19 months. So I think, actually, the report should have talked a little bit more about where senior civil servants were, because if you were going to complain about the PM's behaviour, someone else's behaviour, he wouldn't be to the PM. He's not your line manager, you'd go to your line manager.
I think it's so weird. He's a 57-year-old man getting drunk all the time.
No, he's...
For most, who does that?
For most of those events... for most of those events, he popped in, did a bit of a speech, disappeared, went to a meeting.
Have a good party.
The nature of being a Prime Minister, the nature of being a Prime Minister is you attend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of things. They just give you a diary, you go. You don't organise, you turn up and deal. Exactly.
Off you pop. OK, all right, well, there we go. Well, look, now, maybe you are fuming at partying politicians, have had it up to here with snowflakes, or feel like you're going to flip if you see me presenting another show on this channel. Who's written this? Anyway, there we go. At some point, all of us have despaired for humanity. Well, one man has had enough and decided to live a dog's life. So, Toko-san from Japan has spent a whopping 12.5 grand on a state-of-the-art suit by an agency called Zeppit, which normally makes hyper-realistic props for movies, so he can live out a lifelong dream of becoming a border collie. That's right. The canine enthusiast had his skeleton studied during months of research to produce a product that looks, Well, not rough at all, basically. OK, all right. And he's gone viral. Thank you very much. At least someone laughed. And he's gone viral with his videos posted to YouTube, where he showcases his Lassie-esque get-up and impressive tricks, which would dazzle the judges at Crufts. And in an age where everyone is encouraged to live their true, authentic selves and, of course, identify, frankly, as whatever they want, maybe this man is a tailblazer. There we go. You see, we've done enough there. We've got a few puns in. We just need to see what happens when a man masquerading as a dog tries to enter a female loo. Anyway, right, OK. We've not quite got time to get stuck into all of that because we've got to rattle through this show, ladies and gentlemen. No time to even breathe here. But coming up, I've been given the power, yeah, you'd love to see it, to crown the final greatest Briton, Unguni and Jackass of the week. My panel reveal their nominees at 10:50. But first, is the NHS now guilty of inflating the monkeypox hysteria, just like the mainstream media? Social media voice of reason, Zuby, will join me on that. But first, of course, as well as a look at what's coming up on Monday's show when Dan Wootton returns, if he makes it out of this ABBA alive, that is, and how GBNews, Britain's news channel, the People's News Channel, will celebrate the Platinum Jubilee of Her Majesty the Queen next week.
Join us for a special GB News event.
The celebration of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee.
From pageantry here at the Palace
to the parties in your street.
We'll bring you 4 days of
unforgettable moments.
Between the 2nd and the 5th of June.
Join us live up and down the country as we share your memories
of Her Majesty's extraordinary reign.
Send us your stories, photographs and videos
at jubilee@gbnews.uk.
Come and celebrate with us
on GB News, the People's Channel.
Coming up on Dan Wootton tonight, are Gen Z's radical trans ideologues killing off feminism? Julie Bindel, the esteemed author and columnist, says she's given up speaking to students after campus hate made her quake with fear. She joins me live. Plus, Trigonometry podcast host Konstantin Kisin, positive professor Carol Sikora and Neil Oliver break down the issues that matter to you. And as ever, I'll be joined by my superstar panel, the Daily Express columnist Carol Malone, senior reporter at the iNewspaper Benjamin Butterworth, and broadcaster and Loose Women star Carol McGiffin. That's Dan Wootton tonight, Monday to Thursday from 9 p.m. till 11 p.m. on GB News.
It's time now for Uncancelled. Yes, wow. Britain's top commentators speak out on controversial issues without the fear of cancel culture sweeping the rest of the media. Now, sadly, the MSM is going absolutely bananas for monkeypox and using any excuse to whip up another dollop of COVID-inspired fear. And, of course, why do we expect anything else? But guess who's getting in on the action now too? None other than the NHS. Eagle-eyed tech whizzes have spotted how the monkeypox page on the NHS website has mysteriously been changed to present a much scarier narrative surrounding the disease than it did just a few weeks ago. So take a quick look at this, everybody. I'll talk you through it, OK? Obviously, if you're listening on radio. Now, in November 2021, the NHS website described monkeypox as, quote, a rare disease that will get better on its own without treatment. Fantastic. Nothing too much to be concerned about there, then, is there? We can all pack up and go home. But then look at this. An edit of the page at the start of this month now more concerningly tells readers that monkeypox victims will, quote, usually need to stay in a specialist hospital so the infection does not spread and their symptoms can be treated. The previous paragraph describing the disease as rare and that it will get better on its own have been deleted. Anyway, the NHS also completely removed a paragraph saying the infection did not spread easily between people and instead added new wording saying sufferers should self-isolate if they catch the disease. Just what the heck is going on here, then? Of course, this isn't the first time a government health organisation has been accused of rewriting the narrative on infectious diseases. Once everyone twigged that the COVID-19 jabs were useless at stopping transmission, the Centre for Disease Control and Prevention in America famously changed its website last year to rewrite the definition of actual vaccines. Well, there we go. Zuby, we're used to the media behaving like this, aren't we? Thank you very, very much for joining us. Really great to have you on the show, my good man. But should we expect more from our public health bodies? Is it a bit weird from the NHS, this?
I think it is. And I think that given the past 2.5 years that we've just lived through, I think they need to stop doing this. I think it's very clear that certain public health authorities, as well as mainstream media channels, want people to live in this constant state of fear. Look, our entire lives, we've had viruses going around, we've had diseases. We've got hundreds of diseases going around the human population at all times. That's just a part of life. But the fact that they're trying to terrify people with this monkeypox situation is frankly ridiculous. I mean, in the UK, as far as I'm aware, there are under 100 cases at the moment. The disease itself is relatively mild. I know that the bumps people can get can look scary. It's actually pretty hard, as far as I understand, for people to transmit it to each other. So I don't think it's fair nor reasonable for people to really be even thinking about this, let alone worrying about it.
OK, all right. I mean, I suppose some people might say, well, it's better to be a bit overcautious, isn't it? But do you think that actually, as a nation, we've got a bit addicted to kind of fear porn in a way?
I do, absolutely. And people need to remember that an overreaction can often be far worse than an underreaction in cases. People often say it's better to overreact than to underreact, but that can be the case sometimes. But I think with this type of situation, it's not. And as I said before, given the scale issue, the actualness of the disease at hand, how rare it is to actually transmit. And again, off the back of this past 2.5 years, I think people need to get away with this constant obsession over diseases and viruses. I mean, that in itself is a type of societal sickness, and it's affecting people mentally. It's having all sorts of devastating effects, which we are now living through right now. And I think from the media's perspective, I think they need to be more responsible with what they're doing. I don't think it's good nor ethical to be constantly keeping people on edge and fearful.
No, I agree completely. Have you noticed as well, a little bit off topic this, but we don't just have storms anymore, do we? We have weather bombs. You know, these things that are jumping out at you, you know. We can't just have a bit of wind, you know. It's record gales and all this kind of stuff. We name the storms. We get the hashtag trending. You know, it does wind people up, and I worry now that we're doing something similar when it comes to monkeypox. I think we do have a duty, really, as the media, I suppose, to kind of just be a bit realistic about it all. But some people are concerned, Zuby, that this is part of a wider plan, because we're seeing now, aren't we, the WHO trying to basically create a global pandemic response. And all of a sudden, monkeypox rears its head, and some people are saying this is a bit of a coinky-dink.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, the more that this happens, the more that people are going to start coming up with their own ideas and theories, and the more people are going to connect dots and become so-called conspiracy theorists because they're not being told the truth. And if they are, then it's being wildly exaggerated. People are not being totally honest about what's happening. And that in itself is a big problem because it undermines the trust that people have in individuals and in institutions. And one of the biggest dangers of that is if in the future there were an actual very serious situation which people need to be aware of or be warned of, people are going to be less likely to be able to trust those to trust those Freudian slip there, to trust those authorities. It's a kind of boy who cried wolf situation.
Yeah, no, indeed. And I know that you're massively into your physical fitness, aren't you? And you could not get over last time, I think, the fact that they closed the gyms for public health. And when it came as well to the idea that with coronavirus, initially, you know, we had a lot of these predictions, a lot of these people that quite literally called sage, right? So we thought they were wise, right? And a lot of the time they were wrong. In fact, quite badly wrong. And the impact on that was, you know, a loss of childhood education, a loss of, well, of money, frankly, jobs, etc. I lost 3 jobs in a day, for goodness sake, so I'm not bitter, as you can tell, I'm over it. But, you know, were you concerned maybe now that no one would listen to these so-called experts going forward, even if monkeypox kicked off?
Yeah, I think that is always a risk. You know, when you constantly exaggerate something, then, or you constantly even lie about something or try to cover up the tracks, then it makes sense for people to lose faith and to lose trust. And that's something we really need to be cautious of. I think if people would just be generally more reasonable, take some of the politics out of these conversations, take some of the emotions and hyperbole out of it, then we can have some frank and honest discussions, and we can talk about what reasonable risks we're willing to accept and tolerate as a society, because there are always going to be risks with just living life, which is part of why I encourage people to be healthy, take care of themselves, do what they can do for their mental and physical well-being. And as long as people reasonably look out for each other, then I think that's really the best that we can do. We can't completely stop all diseases, viruses, transmission, every threat that exists in the world. We can't stop everything in its tracks. We have to be able to get on with our lives.
Zuby, you've got a very soothing voice. I'd quite like you to be on next Chris Whitty if anything ever happens there. But anyway, thank you very much. And it's important for me to say that in a statement earlier today, NHS Digital told us we regularly review and update content on the NHS website to make sure that it is accurate, easy to understand and reflects current advice. We will continue to update the page as the situation around monkeypox unfolds and if guidance changes in line with advice from the UK Health Security Agency. So there we go. Of course, rapper, author and host of the Real Talk with Zuby podcast was joining us just then. So thank you very, very much, Zuby. Well, it's that time, I think, ladies and gentlemen, isn't it? It's time to reveal today's greatest Briton and Union Jackass. Well, with me to... Sorry about that. With me to reveal that is my superstar panel, political commentator Dominique Samuels, former Tory London mayoral candidate Sean Bailey, and author and broadcaster Amy Nicola. Great stuff. Right, OK, who to start with? Dominique, OK, take it away.
My greatest Briton, and I came across this today, is HSBC's Stuart Kirk, who was suspended in a presentation that he did for calling out the climate catastrophists now dominating the financial sector. In his talk, he debunked several exaggerated claims about climate change, in particular its impact on future economic growth. And the thing was great. It's had loads of views, so, yeah, greatest Briton for me.
OK, all right. Sean, I'll move on to you.
My greatest Briton is Dame Deborah James, who attended the Chelsea Flower Show to see a rose be named after her. And, of course, she's been an inspiration and raised over £6.5 million for Cancer Search UK. OK, I'll tell you what, two good choices so far. Amy, your turn.
My nomination is the actress Yasmin Finney, the rather captivating star of Netflix series Heartstopper, soon to be in Doctor Who, who's currently calling for better opportunities for trans actors like herself.
Oh, there we go. All right, so nice ones here, nice ones. But I can see a case for all of them. I like that someone is going to be basically speaking out a bit about the old big green agenda. I am going to go, though, for Sean. There you go. Sean Bailey, of course, who went for Dame Deborah James with the best will in the world of you two. You didn't really stand a chance once you've gone for that one because, you know, £6 million quid for charity as well, really. It's hard not to have a go on that one. OK, right, well, it's time for Union Jackass now. Dominique, go on.
Mine is actually going to be boxer Anthony Joshua. There was a story that came out the other day of him storming up to a uni accommodation to confront a bunch of students that apparently heckled him from their accommodation. Very bizarre and just screams insecurity. I don't know why he did it.
OK, all right.
Bouncer at my nightclub.
All right. We're going to have to keep it short and sweet. Sure, go on.
My Union Jackass is the RMT Union, who are threatening the biggest real-time strike in living memory, quite frankly, certainly in modern history, and they're doing it on the Queen's Jubilee. They're holding the taxpayers to ransom, and that's not right.
It's almost like they don't like our Queen, isn't it? Amy, your go.
Ricky Gervais for breaking the first rule of comedy, which is to be funny, and then secondly for galvanising discrimination against trans people, who I think, frankly, have enough on their plate at the moment.
Right, OK, all right. I'll tell you what, we could have done a full debate feature on just that, couldn't we? But, Dominique, I'm going to go to you. Yes, Anthony Joshua, I think, is very much this week's Union Jackass. Look, thank you so much, all of my esteemed panels, Dominique, Sean and Amy. Dan Wootton will be back in the hot seat on Monday from 9 p.m, but now it's time for Headliners. See you in a bit.
Hello, Alex Deakin here with your latest weather updates. The skies will clear a little overnight, which should allow a bit more sunshine for most of us tomorrow, but it will also allow temperatures to fall, so a little fresh first thing on Friday morning. Here's the bigger picture. High pressure to the south, low pressure to the north. In between, a fair few weather fronts drifting across the country. They've been bringing a lot of cloud today. This one is edging away to the south, bringing drizzly conditions and a lot of mist across the southwest, but otherwise pulling away, allowing breaks in the cloud to allow it to turn quite chilly. We will keep showers coming into northern and western parts of Scotland overnight and a fairly brisk wind here. Temperatures dropping where we've got the clear skies and lighter winds across the heart of the country down to single figures. Not far off freezing in some rural spots, so a chilly start to Friday, but by and large, a fine day to come for most of us. Still some showers across Scotland, mostly north of the Central Belt, and even here they will tend to ease through the day, but still a few heavy ones possible. From the Central Belt southwards then, it's looking mostly dry, fine with good spells of sunshine. A warmer feel as well, certainly in the south, 21, maybe 22 Celsius. During Friday evening, temperatures will drop quite sharply. The showers, though, will continue to fade from northern Scotland, so for most it's going to be dry and fine with clear skies as we head into the weekend. That's going to, again, allow things to be quite chilly on Saturday morning, but most of us will have a fine, bright, blue sky day on Saturday. Certainly lots of sunshine in the morning. The cloud will bubble up a little through the day. Small chance of a few showers in northeast Scotland, very slim chance of a shower over eastern England as well. But I say, for the vast majority, it's dry and bright on Saturday. Temperature's not spectacular, but feeling pleasant in the sunshine. Quite a cool feel again in the northeast with a fairly brisk wind. And for most of us, Sunday will be the cloudier day of the two this weekend and feeling cooler as well. Bye for now.
We are GB News.
We're right across this great nation.
On TV,
on radio, on digital.
Absolutely everywhere.
We don't talk down to you.
We embrace all voices with honest and civilised conversation.
We're not part of the establishment.
We're one of you.
And we're only getting started.
Join us on GB News,
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
Every morning from 6 o'clock, we'll wake you up with GB News Breakfast with all the stories you didn't know from the night before.
So whether it's serious news, entertainment, or your own views from all over our great nation, we're here to kick off your day with a smile.
The national media should be reflecting and reporting what's happening here.
You will notice the northwestern accents.
Whether you're with us on TV, radio, or online, every morning, it's breakfast from 6 a.m. Hope you can join us.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, the comedy panel show that's just like the news, in that the left fights the right and it doesn't really seem to matter who wins. We cover the big stories. It was in fact a troop of baboons and not angry vegans.
I like that.
And the really important stories.
Fat naked cow gets stuck in swimming pool.
It's a headline in a lot of local newspapers. Yeah.
We're on the same team, Nick. Yeah, but I'm just helping you.
Join us for Ministry of Offence, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock on GB News.
I'm Dan Wootton. Join me Monday to Thursday from 9 to 11 for the feistiest and most fun news debate on TV, where free speech reigns. I'll bring you a sharp take on the day's